Hello and welcome to another episode of Brand Retro. Today on the podcast we have Mike Ozan from Twist Creative. Mike, how are you doing today?
Very good, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. So I was doing a little research leading up to this podcast, and I really like a lot of the messaging and the different things that are on your site, especially like kind of how you guys position yourselves. It's very unique. I think it's I see you've been doing it for a while, but I think it definitely trends with kind of that fearless mindset that's out there today in the marketing world. So kind of going along that theme, could you tell me a little bit more about Twist Creative, kind of how you started and kind of how you got to that mindset in your unique approach within marketing?
Absolutely. So my wife and I started this agency 24 years ago. We got married 24 and a half years ago. So that tells you a little something about our lifestyle as a husband and wife running an agency. Obviously, we have lots more people involved these days than we did back in the beginning, but we're in the Cleveland market. So in northeastern Ohio, in the year 2000, when we started the agency, we really felt that everything in our town was devoted to mediocrity. And that's where our original mission was: fight mediocrity. We believed that Cleveland clients deserve better and could do better. And in order to start this agency, I'm the writer and strategist, by the way. She's the designer. We traveled to New York and we visited with a lot of connections there and looked at a lot of agencies there, as well as San Francisco, which, at the time were both the mecca of design and branding. Today, we talk about ourselves as the fearless thinkers, and looking at our own market and our own set of clients who we're successful with. We spent about a couple months talking to clients in the area about what they liked and didn't like about working with agencies, and we found that most of them hated agencies. And what we found out about why they hated agencies was that working in a middle market, as you can imagine, every agency wants to work for Nike and Apple, but they settle, and I'm using that word, cautiously, but they settle for the clients they have. They have this love the one you're with kind of philosophy, but the clients know that they're not the ones that they're in love with. So laddering up from there, it really gives you some insight into asking them, well, what could we do to fit your business better? And we learned all about our middle market accounts and what they needed. And what we found is they're always outspent about 100 to 1. I mean, a great example is we have a client that's got about 42 pizza shops. Pizza is always the best thing to sell, in my opinion. It's the most fun thing to market because everybody knows what pizza is and everybody wants it.
Right.
But that 42 location local pizza chain has to fight against the marketing dollars of Domino's, Papa John's, Pizza Hut equally. I mean, they go head to head with the nationals in their own territory. And so in order to succeed, really bringing out that differentiation, really expressing the story and getting to in a moment of appreciation is what we focus on.
Yeah. So one of the things you said there is you kind of felt like the client or the people of Cleveland deserved a better kind of approach to that. And that rings true and definitely resonates with me because it's one of the things that kind of brought me to my own agency is that I just saw that maybe we were always looking for that bigger fish, or it was always this grass is greener kind of a concept, so that like as you would call them, the middle market type clients, not that people wouldn't take them on, but they had a lesser tolerance, for what it is that they needed or wanted or requested from the agency themselves. So, tell me a little bit about what you saw in your experience and what kind of led you to kind of step up in that way and decide, you know what, I'm gonna help those guys, or I'm gonna be the one that doesn't turn them away.
Well, if you're a creative, as I am and you are, we all, the turn on in this business is seeing your idea succeed for that client and help them succeed. And the next turn on is that other people see it, right? And we decided if we're not going to move to New York, which we considered, we want to do everything we can to elevate the community that we're in. So in the beginning, we focused on theaters, nonprofits. We did our local film festival for 10 years. We donated a big portion of that work because we really wanted to elevate the cultural assets, the community in general. And the interesting thing about Cleveland is that it is the city in America with the highest rate of poverty. So we have an enormous amount of nonprofits that respond to that. So enhancing our community, and that was involved working with community development corporations. We did the brands of many neighborhoods. We did the brands of a lot of our cultural assets. We're currently working with our Natural History Museum that's going through a much needed remodel. Like since 1967, this museum has had the same stuffed tigers and, cavemen. And we just, in general, that philosophy of, we believe Cleveland clients deserve better, or we believe middle market clients deserve better, is what motivates us. And our fearless thinking philosophy is, for a long time, we resisted using the word agency because an agency implies that we're selling media, which we actually don't. We have a partner that does our media buying and planning, and we work for fees, not commissions. And the reason that we decided to bring the word agency into our description was that if we were going to be an agency, we need to think fearlessly on behalf of these middle market clients about what we can bring to the table on their behalf. And that's what a good agent does, is it brings you not only ideas and tools, but opportunities. And so when we talk about fearless thinking, that's what we're talking about. And that's what we indoctrinate in our staff here, that they need to think, well, the client didn't request that it form a nonprofit foundation, or that it get involved with a cause, or that it put on an event. But we need to push them to do those things because we want to advance their sophistication in their marketing and their brand.
Yeah, and I think the responsibility that we take on as so-called agencies is, I think we're tasked with bringing those out of the box ideas or helping them see opportunity where maybe they hadn't seen it before. Because like anybody, I think they get caught in a rut, and I think they might not see the connection to some of those things until it's fully explained to them, or they've had the opportunity to live through it themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, we find they're not using the resources enough because, what I looked at some of the things that you guys have done in your philosophy, and what we kind of, when you talk about brand nostalgia, that pull at the heart, I love my own brand, is, yeah, we walk around like my own office and I take everything in it for granted. I don't really see it, but if you would have grabbed me in 2000 and shown me a picture of this agency as it is today, I would have been like, oh my God, that's a dream come true. I love that. That's so exciting. So, and I kind of call that philosophy as an owner, day one. Try to approach every day like it's day one. It's not easy, but we're a lot further than where we started, and there's nothing but new opportunities in front of us. And from your kind of brand retro philosophy, we do that with clients as well. And we say to them, look, if you've been in business, a lot of businesses, I don't know about the clients you work with, but a lot of the businesses around here, they're third or fourth generation family ownership. or they've been bought by a venture capital or they've been conglomerated in some way. But what we tell them is you're sitting on an ocean of oil that 100 years, 150 years, we want to see every picture, every commercial you made in the past, every ad you ran, every picnic that you took photos at, because content is king, right? And that is all wonderful content to get people to appreciate, who you are by understanding where you started and where you came from. And they're like, oh, that stuff is meaningless to us. But when they start seeing us reframe it, they become emotional about it as well. And it really does resonate.
And I think just to kind of piggyback on that, I think of the context that it provides their customers makes them appreciate and even love their brand more, because there's legacy there and there's history there and there's
Mhm.
emotion there. And I think people forget about that. They think, well, that's in the past and we've moved on from that. We're not even doing that anymore. And it's like, that's fine, but that doesn't mean it still doesn't carry some inherent value that you could leverage and even kind of revive from time to time just for fun. So,
That's right. They own that history. That's what they own. And it's
yeah.
valuable. We did that with rigid tools, and we've done it with small manufacturers, and we've done it with old service businesses and law firms and consumer products that have a history as well. And people love to see, everyone's into vintage now. People love to see the 80, we worked for a company called Original Mattress Factory, which has about 150 doors up and down the East Coast. And in every market, they make their own mattresses, but they weren't leveraging the fact that they're employing the local people. They're contributing to the local economy. They're hand making a product right in the store sometimes. It's a factory direct. And they had some hysterical 80s commercials with the founder laying on the mattress. And they had a commercial that brought an older woman in, and she said something like, I don't want any hooey, or some silly phrase like that. And we reframed that all into a landing page and ran social about it. And people loved it. And like you said, it helped them appreciate who these guys are and what they stand for in an era when, they're not a bed in the box product. They're not Casper. They're not 1,000 of Casper's imitators. They never have a sale. So they have an honest product for an honest price. And that's today something you can use, in advertising. We always say go the other way, zag when they zig and zig when they zag. Just telling that story that they thought was boring is actually totally different than any other story out there right now.
Yep. And the juice that they have behind it is its legacy and its history and its
It's
nostalgia. And
authentic.
yep.
It's not made up. It's not bullshit. And the line that we wrote for them is great beds, no bull.
Yeah.
And that's their whole philosophy.
That's clever. So tell me about, obviously you have this fearlessness kind of mantra in your agency. How do you teach the clients to adopt that? How do you help them understand not only what that means, but how to apply it to their own brands? And I'll just add this one thing, is that one of the phrases I tell my clients a lot is that you don't have to spend $1 million to look like $1 million brand, so that they
Mm-hmm.
understand that it's not about size. Sometimes it's not about how much budget you have. It's about strategy. It's about approach, and it's about the willingness to kind of put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
But back to the question is like, how do you help clients understand that philosophy of fearlessness?
Well, first you have to be selective about your clients. And it's not about the product or the service, it's about who's sitting on the other side of the table. We, being in business as long as we have, in 25 years, I can tell you I've worked with every client type and every vertical that you can imagine, from the tiniest, pre-revenue startup to, we work with clients like Purell and other big, product manufacturers. And regardless of the budget, if the client on the other side of the table can't listen and doesn't, I say all the time, I say to our staff, remember, we are advertising professionals. We're professionals. We know what we're talking about. We're experts. We have a proven track record. We bring results. So some clients, and I don't have this problem as much anymore because there's been a generational shift in who's on the other side of the table, which is great. But, we used to say in sales, get selected, which means get invited in to talk. Don't get deselected, right? And then don't get shot by the old man, which is the last meeting where the guy who you didn't know was the real decision maker finally gets revealed and you lose the account. The nice thing is the old man is gone in most cases. I don't have to sit and explain the value of brand to the millennial female execs that we now work with, which is such a delight. I can't even express how happy it makes me to work with people that have grown up understanding the value of a quality brand and the ability it has to do all the things that it needs to do on behalf of the revenues, the bottom line, the culture, the connection to community, and things like that. I don't have to do that, more than once a year now. So it starts with being highly selective about your clients. We have a philosophy, which is no amateur clients. If you've never purchased this before, if you don't know what you're buying, if you have unrealistic expectations that it's going to magically, all of a sudden, you're going to walk in here with $25,000, which is a minuscule amount of money these days to try to make an impact, and then decide that you expect for that money that your business will then succeed without you doing any work and with you arguing, every subjective preference that you have. Yeah, that's not going to work. We need to work with someone on the other side of the table that treats us with respect, that we will respect. You walk in here and say you're the best at the world at making mattresses, we believe you. We say we're the best in the world at selling mattresses, you need to believe us.
Yeah.
And if that is not a shared trait, that's not a shared value, we can smell it coming a mile away at this point. I'm sure you can too when it's not right. And we don't engage in that work. So it's not so much that we have to explain to them or get them to appreciate what they're going to get. It's that they walk in the door a knowledgeable consumer, and then we enhance that.
Yeah. And I'm sure you'll agree with this, but like the two words that we throw around a lot with our clients and even within the team is that there has to be belief and there has to be trust. Because we have
Mm-hmm.
same type of scenario. We have what I call tire kickers. We have people that come
Mm-hmm.
in and they don't necessarily know what they want, but they're also not committed to it. They don't really want to spend the money, or they don't really want to take the action or put the work in, but at the same time they want the results. And it's like you really can't have one without the other. And you have to believe that it's possible. Like you have to
That's right.
believe in your business, and you have to believe that hey, if I do my part and you guys deliver what you say you can deliver, that
Mm-hmm.
this is really going to work for me. And if you have all the doubts in the world on that front, then you're probably not a good fit for you, because I can't work with somebody who doesn't believe in themselves. And that's why brand is important. That's why their commitment to, the project is really important, because it's a journey and it's a process.
That's right. It's a journey. We used to call the part where the client starts to get nervous the dark side of the moon. We would say, the trip's going really well, everyone's excited, but then we're going to lose communication around the dark side of the moon part, which is where we're going away and really solving the problem. And that's when it's very important to stay in contact with the client. And even though there's not a lot of progress they can see yet, there's a lot of progress. There's got to be a lot of communication happening to manage their expectations. And this business is definitely as much about managing expectations as it is anything else.
It's very true. And I like the dark side of the moon reference, but we have to lead them through the dark pieces, because
Yeah,
we know where we're going and what we're doing. But to your point, once that communication drops off and the lights start to dim,
Mm-hmm.
they get nervous. They're scared of the
Mm-hmm.
dark, so we have to help them.
That's right.
So
Absolutely.
so Mike, tell me a little bit about, kind of where you see your agency going in the next few years. Obviously with AI and everything that's happened in the last couple 2-3 years, some people are freaking out. Some people are adopting all these new opportunities and evolving from it. And I think the agency world it's kind of all over the place. Depending on who you ask, you get different opinions. And I'd love to hear what your thoughts are.
Sure. Well, AI aside, we have tried to make our service easier to purchase. Meaning, we put a message out there that says working with an agency should be rewarding and it should be fun, right? We're making something together that's never existed before, and we're going to do it together with you. And that interaction is going to be, not always laugh out loud fun, but it's going to be rewarding from in a professional context. You're going to feel a sense of accomplishment. You're going to feel good about what we're doing together. And it's going to be easy from the standpoint of we're the service organization and you're the client. We're going to make everything easy for you. We're going to take good care of you. So really, we've been levering off of that hospitality idea to make clients more comfortable. And we get better information out of them, and we do better work when clients participate. I mean, there's never been like a candid pushback that didn't make the work better. I mean, and when there's subjective kind of preferences and opinions, that's one thing. But when a client says, I don't see that getting me past this moment that I need to get past with a consumer, then we say, okay, yeah, you're right. We need to retool that idea in a way. And then we find that that's when the strongest work and most effective work comes forward. As far as AI goes, yeah, I spend 10 minutes of every hour being afraid of it, and 10 minutes of the next hour you looking at how can, as an an agency that's in the business of innovation, how can we innovate our model to benefit from it? And I still don't know the answer to that, of course. I mean, I look at Chat GPT, and I've tried to make Chat GPT write something that I thought was usable, but and it does a good job, right? But it doesn't write, it can't write copy, and I'm not using 4, I'm using 3.5.
Yeah.
Maybe 4 can, but it can't write copy that makes a human connection. It can write accurate copy. It could write a great accurate paper about a topic, probably. I've even given it some of my copy and said, rewrite this. And it kind of it feels like that amateur copywriter that's overwriting to their book. They're overwriting it so they can show it to someone else, not because they want to create understanding in an audience.
Yeah.
So
So what we've
I
been
don't
kind
know.
of, yeah, no, what we've been kind of doing is, I mean, we've been dabbling and playing around with it and trying to leverage it and trying to find a comfortability with it so that we know not only what it is, what it does, what the threat might be, but also how we can
Hmm.
leverage it going forward. And kind of the safe space that I've found is that we just kind of focus on the 80%. So like you said, like if I give it a challenge, if I give it a task, if it gets me 80% there and I can just
Hmm.
polish with the 20 or whatever's left
Hmm.
over, then for me, as it sits today, that's acceptable. I can do something with that. Where I think it's changing and evolving so fast that anybody that
Hmm.
listens to this podcast 6 months from now might be like, hey,
What are they
that's not
talking
what you,
about?
yeah, that might not be what you said a week ago. And it's like, well, as it sits
Right.
today, that I think it's a valuable tool. I don't know where it's exactly going, but I do know that you can extract benefit from it. And for me, it's like I said, it's that
Hmm.
80% rule. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's interesting because to your point, I think there's some people that are completely against it. I think there's people that fear it. And I think there's people that put too many eggs in that basket. And where that plays out in the next couple of years or even 6 months is yet to be seen. But it's interesting to
Hmm.
get the insights and the perspectives of people who not only are agency owners, but people that have been in the industry for a long time, because this is new. This is some crazy stuff compared to the last 25 years.
Yeah, and I think if you're a client who has an excessive budget, you could lean on AI, and that would be, even though the message might not be something that really resonates with someone, you can put it out there with the frequency and the reach to make it productive. We often are playing with clients that are they're budget challenged.
Yeah.
Not that they have no money, but again, they're being outspent. So the nuance that proves they understand their customer, that comes through the messaging and design, it needs to be there. And like you said, maybe it can get you 80% of the way there, but it's missing that 20% that would make you say, "Oh, that's a story I really want to share.
Yeah.
I want to tell someone about that." And that's what that's what our livelihood is built on, is stories that spread. So
And it's kind
I
of what,
think it's a threat and a benefit. It's like everything else today, and that's why Oppenheimer. At least I think Oppenheimer is so intriguing right now, because they keep talking about in that film about the fact that it's a dual use technology. It could destroy the world or it could save mankind. And right now, AI is exactly in that position.
yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. And I think there's a lot of unknowns there. We know it's powerful. We know obviously it's going to change things, but where, when, how, and for how long, who knows? It feels like it's been a long time, but really it's only been like 6, 8 months, somewhere in there, really, since it
Yeah.
kind of launched. But
Yeah,
yeah,
supposedly Google has a AI life coach they're about to release. So
well, that
we'll
should be
see how,
interesting,
how that piece works. Yeah.
right?
I was like, oh, I'll use the life coach.
Yeah.
I'll let the AI tell me what to do in my personal life.
Well, and it probably wouldn't be that much different than, whatever, decades ago, and you could call Miss Cleo on the weekends and get some
Mm-hmm.
advice there. So,
Mm-hmm.
well, Mike,
Exactly.
I appreciate your time, and this conversation's been great.
My
So I really
pleasure.
appreciate it. And, if you're open to it, I'd love to have you on the podcast again sometime.
Sure. That would be wonderful. I appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. So tell us, before I let you go, tell us exactly where they can follow along and learn more about Twist Creative.
Sure. You can follow us at twistcreative.com, and on Instagram, LinkedIn, no longer so much on Twitter or whatever it is now, but we are on Threads, all at Twist Creative.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Mike. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
If you'd like to learn more about CyberDogs, share your thoughts, or even ask a specific question about this episode and/or the brand Retro Mindset, contact me directly at mike@cyberdogsmarketing.com.